So Fahad, you can go ahead.
Ready, let's go, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum to everybody who has joined us today. We've got Shaykh Assim Al Hakeem ready and waiting to go. Just before that, I want to give you a quick introduction on Shaykh Assim Al Hakeem. So he's graduated from the prestigious Al Qura University in Makkah, Saudi Arabia in 1998. At present, he is an imam of a masjid in Jeddah, a role that he has held for the last 20 years, where he delivers the weekly
32. 32 years.
32, alhamdulillah, amazing. I think I've just got 2 years outdated information. Apologies for that. Sheikh Asim also participates regularly on the Islamic and Hadiths. Brothers and sisters who have joined us, please could you mute yourselves, because we want to have Sheikh Asim speak uninterrupted. So anybody who's joining us, please mute yourselves. The Sheikh has also studied for several years the books of the great scholar Shaykh Saleh ibn Uthaymin. May Allah have mercy on his soul. This is not the first time that the Sheikh has collaborated with Illume Academy and has been part of our events. He has also conducted workshops for us in person in Chennai in the past. We've done Divine Thread, which is Ulum al-Quran, Believer's Castle, that is the fiqh of Salah, Purity 180, the fiqh of Tahara, and also Operation HD, the fiqh of marriage. We're going to commence today's session now, which is making the best out of Ramadan in these times. And these are different times. We were looking forward to the nasiha from the Sheikh, who can tell us how best we can utilize this Ramadan, inshallah. I'll now pass it over to Sheikh to take the session. Just a reminder to everyone, please mute yourselves. We only want to hear the Sheikh at this time. And also, we will be taking questions for the Sheikh at the end. And the way that you can post your questions is through the chat system. We will not be taking questions in between the session. Once the Sheikh has completed the session, you can post your questions. Inshallah, we have time from the Sheikh to answer them after the lecture, inshallah. Jazakallah khair for your patience. And over to the Sheikh.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن اهتدى بهديه واستنى بسنته إلى يوم الدين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. The title I was given was Making Best Out of Ramadan During Lockdown. And when you come to think of the things you can talk about, they blow your mind away. Ramadan is one of the pillars of Islam that many of us unfortunately take for granted. We think that because of the so many Ramadans we have witnessed, that it is something that we do out of habit, and rarely we do out of conviction that this is a pillar of Islam. Fasting the month of Ramadan is something that Allah Azza wa Jal said that all deeds are for the son of Adam, except fasting. This is for me, and I only reward with it. So when Allah the Almighty says that I, the only one who rewards with it, He took upon Himself the mission of rewarding you for fasting Ramadan. It shows you how important and significant this ritual is. Now, one of the greatest things that we tend to neglect during the month of Ramadan and elsewhere is the issue of submissiveness, the issue of being servants to Allah Azza wa Jal. We tend to think that we are masters, not slaves. we tend to ignore the fact that we worship Allah Azza wa Jal because He ordered us to do so. So we're neglectful. And this appears when we are out of our comfort zone, when we travel away from our own habitat. Here, you can see clearly whether an individual is a true Muslim or a Muslim on shaky grounds. The greatest form of ibadah. Okay, one second. The greatest form of ibadah is the one that you worship Allah Azza wa Jal while believing that you are a servant of Him Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. When you feel that you are a servant in Allah, to Allah during the month of Ramadan, you taste the beauty of Allah. But when you feel that I have to get this out of my chest, I have to do this and get rid of it, I have to pray Taraweeh and get it done with, I have to fast these 15, 16 hours and get it over with, then you would never taste the beauty of Ramadan. We can spend a lot of time talking about the beauty of night prayer. We can talk about the great reward in fasting, the etiquettes of fasting, how fasting is not rewarded if we fail to withhold our tongues from indulging in things that are haram. We can talk about the importance of charity. We can talk about the beauty of the last 10 nights of Ramadan and the glorious night of Laylatul Qadr. We can talk about the great reward in feeding people and helping them break their fast. And this would take us forever. I thought of sharing with you things that we know by default, but we fail to implement in our lives. I thought of sharing with you the basics that would benefit us not only in the lockdown time during Ramadan, but rather in our entire life. I wanted to share with you how a Muslim behaves, throughout the whole year, 24 hours, 7 days a week, and how he does not limit himself to seasons that Allah had put throughout the year. So, one of the basics, a beautiful authentic hadith, which the Prophet ﷺ advised his great companion Abu Dharr al-Ghafari, may Allah be pleased with him. He said to him, لا تحقرن من المعروف شيئا ولو أن تلقى أخاك بوجه طلق. He said, do not regard any act of kindness as insignificant, even meeting your brother with a cheerful face. A normal hadith, most of us knows it by heart. Rarely you would find someone understanding the implication of it. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ, as he told us about himself, was given the concise of speech, few words that you can count on your hand. Do not regard any act of kindness as insignificant, even meeting your brother with a cheerful face. This is a motto. This is our symbol and logo that Muslims must abide by throughout their life, that makes them active, positive, effective in their community. Always the first to do good deeds. No matter how small and insignificant this is in our eyes, always remember that Allah Azza wa Jal does not look at it in this way. This hadith illustrates a lifestyle of the Prophet ﷺ and of any Muslim following him. We tend to focus on what is famous, what is huge, what is mega and big. That's why, how many times should I finish reading the Quran every day or every week or every Ramadan? How many hours should we pray? How much of my income should I give for charity? What we are looking for is quantity instead of quality. And Islam always tells us to focus on quality first. What use is it to pray 1,000 rak'ah without contemplation and submissiveness, while 2 rak'ahs where your heart is present and you don't talk about anything or think about anything while praying them, would ensure you that Allah forgives all of your previous sins. Quality is important. So when the Prophet ﷺ says, do not regard any act of kindness, ma'ruf, we have to define the meaning of ma'ruf. What is meant by ma'ruf, act of kindness? This is a general word, one of a kind, which indicates anything that Allah loves, and it commands you to be kind to people. Ma'ruf. That's why some ulama define it as, it is a word that the Arabs consider everything that is good in the mind of the people of intellect, and the people of kindness and charity do not reject it or resent it. So it is a word with a very wide definition. The common denominator is that Allah loves it. As simple as that. And if you notice, if you read the Quran, if you read the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, you would find the greatest act of mercy and kindness from Allah Azza wa Jal, where He actually leads us to things that would give us salvation from hell and admit us to paradise. And these things are so little, are so easy. Allah, the Almighty, is so kind that He did not limit good deeds to a specific deed. So imagine if Allah Azza wa Jal only made the way to Jannah through giving to charity. Me being stingy and loving money, I wouldn't enter Jannah. Imagine if Allah Azza wa Jal only made the way to Jannah is through 3 or 4 hours night prayer. Me, being lazy, loving to sleep a lot, would not be able to enter Jannah. Some people are gifted the blessing of fasting, but they are not as successful when it comes to night prayer. Others are gifted the blessing of night prayer, but they can't spend money in the cause of Allah. So Allah the Almighty opened so many doors for you to enter Jannah. He made 7 doors to hell, subhanahu wa ta'ala. But he made 8 doors to paradise, which shows you that his mercy overwhelms his wrath and anger. Only if you would make an effort. The Prophet ﷺ gave us examples of deeds that would allow us to enter Jannah. Though if you ask any common person, he would tell you, this is nothing. What is this? Is Jannah this cheap that you can enter it without hard work? No, it's not cheap. It is expensive, as the hadith says. But Allah made it easy for us. The Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, while a man was walking on a road, he saw a branch full of thorns on the way of people. So he took it and removed it away from the road so that passers-by would not be harmed with it. Allah Azza wa Jal was thankful to this man and forgave his sins, admitted him to Jannah. Subhanallah. This act could make it or break it. Imagine when such a negligible act can be determinal in making you enter Jannah or not. How many times do we walk and see a broken bottle or glass shattered, and imagine while walking past it that a child of 5 or 6 years who's barefooted walks on it, doesn't see it, and his feet bleed and they're cut open. Yet we never take the time to stop, remove it away from people's way. How much reward Allah Azza wa Jal places on such a deed. Don't count. Just depend on His kindness and mercy. And if you reverse the hadith, if Allah forgives for a man who removes harmful things from people's way, then what is the ruling on a person who puts harmful things in people's ways? I'm not talking about terrorists who put bombs to blow innocent people discriminately. Those are already evil, deviant people who we know that they are the hounds of hell, as the Prophet described them, alayhi salam. I'm talking about normal people, a sister-in-law, a mother-in-law who goes and throws mental bombs between a man and his wife to destroy their marriage. I'm talking about those who use social media to tarnish the reputation of people or to cast their doubts and confusion among them. I'm talking about enemies who target our children and try to divert them from Islam through their evil way This hadith shows us that community service, when you do something, not for myself, I'm doing it for the entire community, for the entire ummah, is highly appreciated by Allah the Almighty. The Prophet tells us, alayhi salatu wasalam, a prostitute was on her way. She saw a thirsty dog. She went down into a well and carried water in her shoe and held the shoe with her mouth and climbed up the well. And there is another hadith, similar hadith, about a man who did the same act. And she gave the water to the dog. Allah Azza wa Jal forgave her sins for that kind act. A prostitute. How fast we are to judge others, to condemn them to hell, to think that we are better than them. They're sinful people, but we are the righteous, we are the pious, and we are better than a handful of them. Allah forgave her for her act of kindness. This is what you get when you're kind to animals. Just think what you will get when you are kind to humans, when you are kind to Muslims, when you are kind to the closest people living under your roof. And reverse it and think of the punishment that awaits you when you are undutiful to your parents, to your spouse, to your children, and what Allah Azza wa Jal is storing for you. Kindness. The Prophet says, alayhi salatu wassalam, act of kindness. Don't look at it as insignificant. I thought of bringing it with me to illustrate it to you, but I think Ramadan is so close, you all know what a date is. So tamrah, a date, something we open our fasting by eating after sunset. Sweet, beautiful. If I were to cut it into half, take the seed out, and randomly meet you in the street and say to you, here, this is half a date, would you take it? Most people won't. This might be contaminated. I don't know what happened to the other half. I can't trust this person giving me this half a date, whether flies fell on it. Imagine, the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wassalam, protect yourselves from hellfire even with half a date. I can protect and save myself from hellfire with half a date. Don't look down at it. When people come and ask for money, and by the way, this happens a lot in Saudi and in the Arab countries, where you get people begging at the end of the prayer. Most of them are professional beggars, I have to admit. But some might be needy. Allah did not tell us to investigate. I see many people, while they're going out, especially what we consider to be low-class workers, meaning that workers with low wages, their class is VIP class at the side of Allah. But to us humans, when we look at people and evaluate them according to their salaries, such low-paid people never fail to open their wallets. The few riyals there, they take one or two and give it to the poor, regardless whether he's a professional beggar or someone in real need. While the people who are rich They simply shrug their shoulders and walk by. Akhi, why didn't you give something from what Allah had given you? No, no, these are professional beggars. Okay, are you looking for real needy people to give them charity? Inshallah, inshallah, if I meet someone, I will give. And he knows that he will not meet anyone. And he knows that anyone who knocks on his door, he peeps from the hole and evaluating should he open the door or not, because most likely this person knocking on my door, whom I do not know, wants money. This is how we evaluate people. Seek protection from hellfire, even if with half a date. And if this is not possible, the Prophet says, alayhi salam, after that, he says, and a kind word is a charity. So if you don't have half a date to protect you from hellfire, then say a kind word. And is it possible that we are so helpless that we can't even protect ourselves from hellfire with a good word? How many times have we seen people speak arrogantly, speak rudely, do not pay attention to how people feel, and they fail miserably in saying a good word? Some people inflate good deeds out of proportion so that they can justify their failure to do any good deeds. We are professionals in putting obstacles on our way. So, Akhi, why don't you do this? Oh, I can't do that because if I do this, this might happen. And if I do this, maybe the authorities would complain. If I do this, my father will be angry. Sometimes I think of doing something and Allah Azza wa Jal makes a test much difficult for me, so I don't do this or that. So they keep on putting obstacles on their ways, and they would never be positive. Let's assume, hypothetically, that you can't do any of the good small deeds. Well, Allah Azza wa Jal doesn't leave you without a possibility and a chance to be saved from hellfire. Allah Azza wa Jal tells you to refrain from harming people with your tongue and with your hand. That's it. So praying is an act you have to do. Oh, that's difficult. Charity and zakat, it's an act that you have to do and pay. Oh, this is too difficult. I'm tired. Hajj requires your physical ability and attendance, while fasting requires you don't do anything. Don't go from here to Mecca. Don't go around the Kaaba. Don't prostrate and do ruku'. Just simply zip it. Don't eat. Don't drink. Don't do things that break your fasting. Don't lie. Don't cheat. Don't backbite. So you are actually refraining from doing things. And one of the greatest deeds you could do is to refrain from harming others with your tongue or with your actions. Al-Hasan al-Basri was asked about a man being approached by another person whom he hates. Yet this person asks him for something. The man gives the man he hates the thing he was asking for out of bashfulness and shyness, though he hates him. Is he going to be rewarded? Al-Hasan al-Basri said, this is an act of kindness. and no act of kindness go unrewarded. No act of kindness would go unrewarded. Everything is rewarded. Everything is documented. Allah Azza wa Jal does not forget a thing. So many things that we could do, not during Ramadan, throughout our lives, that we always and always overlook. So we end up with only one or two deeds that to us would make it and break it. If I don't pray Taraweeh, Ramadan doesn't have any taste. I missed Ramadan. If I don't give charity, most people are under the wrong conviction that their zakat must be given in Ramadan. This is not right. Yet they all focus and time their zakat to be given in Ramadan. And the poor Muslims suffer the remaining 11 months. But this is another topic. So there are so many things that we neglect to do, and they're considered to be acts of good deeds, such as answering the salam. Assalamu alaikum. Yes, good morning. No, I said assalamu alaikum. Hello, how can I help you? Akhi, reply to my salam. Say wa alaikum assalam. People rarely think of the reward in exchanging salam, not greetings. Assalamu alaikum between Muslims. Mute your mashallah. We always get interferences from participants through unmuting their microphones. When was the last time you visited a sick person? Well, actually, with the lockdown, you are excused from that. But in normal cases, we rarely go and visit sick people in hospitals or in their homes, not knowing the great amount of good deeds that Allah gives us from the time we exit our homes till the time we return. As the Prophet said, ﷺ, that he would be harvesting from the fruits of Jannah until he goes back. And 70,000 angels would pray for you until you come back. Following funerals, answering an invitation for a walima or a aqiqah, saying yarhamukumullah when a person sneezes, giving advice to someone who's seeking it, fulfilling someone's oath when he swears that you do something, helping an oppressed, spreading salam, guiding the one who is lost, trying to help Muslims achieve their rights, postponing and delaying someone who took a loan from you, but he's unable to pay back, being dutiful to your parents, being kind to your spouse, taking good care of upbringing your children, leading someone who's blind and showing him the way, educating someone who's ignorant and not knowing what is right from what is wrong. And you can go on endlessly to things that are basics in our religion, yet we always find it difficult to fulfill and to do, because we only think of big things, mega things. And when we fail in achieving them, we would have failed in the small things and the big things. But if we took it step by step and started with the trivial things in our view, with the small things that are insignificant to us, we will find that this paves the way and the path to doing big things. There's a beautiful hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said, there are 40 things. The highest of them, imagine 40 things, The highest of them is giving your sheep or goat, lending it to your neighbor to milk and return it back to you. So they only use the milk. It's something you lend them. So this is the highest. 39 things come underneath that. The Prophet said about these 40 things, that no one does a thing from these 40 anticipating the reward only from Allah Azza wa Jal and believing in the consequence of such good reward, except Allah would admit him to Jannah because of that one thing of these 40, the list of 40 things. And I believe Al-Hafidh ibn Hajar, may Allah have mercy on his soul, listed it on his book, or in his book, Fath al-Bari. 40 things. The highest, the most difficult, the most expensive is to lend your goat to your neighbor who's in need so that he can milk it and drink the milk and return the goat as it is to you. So there are so many insignificant things in Islam that if we do them, we can enter Jannah. Calling others to Islam. Imagine the deficiency that Muslims have in calling others to Islam. When was the last time someone accepted Islam through you? When was the last time you called someone to Islam? Here in Saudi, there was an Indian gentleman, knew little Arabic, if any. And every time he passes by this Filipino Catholic worker who used to work in a gas station, and this guy would say to him, Islam, fi kwayis. You know how they speak, very broken Arabic. Islam is good. Islam fi kwayis. Islam fi kwayis. That's all. The Filipino guy says, every single day, the guy says this phrase and moves on. Until I was intrigued. Let me search about this Islam that he says, fi kwayis. There is good in it. And when I started searching about Islam, Allah opened my heart to becoming a Muslim, and I accepted Islam. Now, who would have thought that such a negligible, insignificant word given by this worker who is low paid but high grade at the side of Allah Azza wa Jal. So many little things we can do in life that would erase and elevate our levels in Jannah, yet we fail to do that. Why? We want big, and we fail in doing big and fail in doing small. The Prophet ﷺ told us to look at the small things that people overlook. A woman must not underestimate a gift she gives to her neighbor, and the neighbor has to also not underestimate or look down at a gift given to her by her neighbor. Even if it was the hoof of a sheep, not the leg, only the end of the leg, the hoof, which has no meat in it, which is worth nothing. But still the Prophet says, don't underestimate it. Give it. People may use it. And it's the act of kindness and the act of giving to the others that enslaves your heart. The Indians have a beautiful habit. Unfortunately, we Arabs don't have. I've been visited by so many brothers from India, whether it's Mumbai, it's Delhi, it's Chennai, it's Kerala. whenever they visit me or meet me, they always have a small gift. Whether it's some halwa, some sweets. I'm diabetic, by the way. I don't know if it's a gift or they want to kill me. Either way, their intention is with Allah. They give you a small perfume bottle. It's a beautiful habit. Shows the generosity, shows their kindness. And the Prophet says that exchanging gifts increases the love between the Muslims. He said, tahadu, tahabu. You will become close to one another. These small things people don't pay attention to. The charity that you give. Remember half a date? It was reported that Mother Aisha was in her home and a beggar knocked the door. The maid came and said, Mother Aisha, there is a beggar outside. We have nothing in our home except these 2 pieces of grapes. 2 pieces. She said, give it to the beggar. So the maid said, what would a beggar do with 2 pieces of grapes? It's nothing. So she said, it's nothing to you. But at the side of Allah, Allah says in the Quran, so whoever does an ant's weight of good will see it. فَمَن يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ. The weight of an ant, if an ant walks on the scale, how much would it show? 0.0001 gram? You will see that on the Day of Judgment, as Allah does not neglect anything, subhanahu wa ta'ala. In short, I've wasted your time. Maybe you're expecting something about Qiyamul Layl, about Taraweeh, about Tahajjud, about charity, about how many times you should recite the Quran, how do we fast, what to do with our children during the month of Ramadan. All of this is good. And we can spend endless hours talking about. But if we succeed in benefiting of this 40 plus minutes talk and to open our eyes on the great venues in front of us to get closer to Allah and to elevate our levels in Jannah through negligible things, insignificant things, so we think. If we manage to change our perception to looking at things as they really are, wallahi, that would be the best lesson to be learned and implemented in this coming month of Ramadan. Don't overlook a small sambusa you send to your neighbor. Now with the lockdown, the welfare of people is in great danger. People who rely on their day-to-day wages and they have not been paid for 2, 3, maybe 5 weeks now, and the business is down. They want food. Negligible things that you can do in your community to give helping hand. Maybe with a phone. Somebody complained to me a couple of days ago, and I don't have money. Alhamdulillah. So I just posted something in a very minute group of real good close friends of mine. And I never asked money for anyone. And in a couple of minutes, 3,700 riyals came in seconds. Each one calling me privately saying, I've transferred 1,000, I transferred 500, I did this, I did that. And I called the imam who was asking, because this imam had 10 kids and he depended entirely on taking students from their homes to school and university as a driver. He's an imam for 25 years in my neighborhood. I know him personally. Wallahi, more than that, for 30 years. I know him since 30 years. And now the guy is calling me saying, Shaykh Asim, you can see what's happening. I don't know what to do. And in seconds. And I have not even paid a penny, alhamdulillah, but I'll get the reward of the 3,700 riyals that would give this man room to live for another month and a half, eating and drinking with his kids. So I pray to Allah Azza wa Jal that He makes this Ramadan the best Ramadan we ever witness. I pray to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala to uplift this pandemic and to cure those who are infected and to restore the favors and blessings upon us that we used to take for granted and not appreciate. I pray to Allah Azza wa Jal to keep us all safe with our spouses, children and parents and siblings, and to help us pass this crisis and to come out of it stronger with the grace of Allah. And Allah knows best. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله نبينا محمد.
Sheikh, Jazakallah khairan for the session. Very, very beneficial. Alhamdulillah. Ameen to your dua at the end. Do you have about half an hour to go over some question and answers that the audience may have?
Inshallah.
Excellent. Jazakallah. Brothers and sisters, you can now post your questions via the chat. I will then present them to the Sheikh. Just before that, I wanted to touch upon one point that the Sheikh made during the lecture. He said about caring for the people who may not have enough to eat to break their fast and to provide for them. On that note, we want to announce that we have the Superfast annual Ramadan campaign that we normally do with Illume Academy, where we collect money from you all and we distribute provision kits to the poor and the needy during Ramadan. So this is an opportunity for you to donate your money, give your zakah, give your charity, and save yourselves from hellfire, and also feed the needy during Ramadan. And inshallah, if you can also make collections within your circles, you could be doing similar to what Shaykh Asim did with the local imam, where 3,700 riyals will also be credited to him in ajr, inshallah, for collections. So please make your local collections and also help us serve the needy better. Sheikh, I've just got a few questions before the session. I'm just going to read out one by one, and then we'll take in the live questions as well through the chat.
Yes, sir.
So in the current situation, Taraweeh in the Masjid is not possible in congregation. Can we pray alone?
First of all, Taraweeh is a prayer prayed in congregation, which the Prophet did alayhi salatu wasalam for 3 or 4 nights. And then he stopped doing it alayhi salatu wasalam because he was afraid that it might become obligatory upon his ummah, and he did not want to burden them. So for the rest of his life, he prayed at home, and the Muslims prayed it alone until he died. In the time of Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, when he entered the masjid and saw people praying alone or in groups, he said, why not make them all pray together in congregation behind one imam? So that he made them pray the Taraweeh, which we know today, behind Ubay ibn Ka'b and Tamim ad-Dari, may Allah be pleased with them, as their imams. And it continued since then. However, Taraweeh prayer is not mandatory. So if a person in normal times does not pray in the masjid, doesn't want to pray Taraweeh, and he decides to pray home, which is totally legitimate and accepted, he might be losing some reward, because with the congregation in the masjid, the reward is higher. But I'll give you the glad tidings, especially for those who feel that they are missing a lot due to this lockdown. For example, people when introducing me, they say that Shaykh Asim holds the role of an imam, a role he has held for the past 20 years. This was 12 years ago. I'm old. I've been praying imam for the past 32 years with the grace of Allah Azza wa Jal, not missing a single Friday. And now I have missed 4, I think, Fridays, and I'm praying them Dhuhr in my home. Don't you think this kills me? It does. But I also, with the grace of Allah, on daily basis, pray Fajr in the Masjid in normal times and stay until the sun rises, pray 2 rak'ahs, which is Salatul Ishraq, which is equivalent to Hajj and Umrah. Perfect, 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 as the Prophet said, every single day. Whoa, I've got great rewards, alhamdulillah. Now I pray home. Don't you think this kills me? Also, every Friday, I pray Asr, and I stay in the Masjid from Asr till Maghrib, so that I can attain the last hour of Jumu'ah, making dua, having a wish list, asking Allah to do this and this and this and this. And it's in my routine. Now I can't do that. Don't you think it's killing me? It is. But I am happy, because my Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam gave me the glad tidings by saying, Allah the Almighty reward a person when he is sick or traveling in the same fashion for the deeds he used to do when he was well and residing. So I know that I'm prevented from offering these good deeds because I'm forced to do that. Yet I'm happy because I know that I'm getting the same reward for these good deeds continuously every single day and week while I'm at the comfort at my home, because Allah's kindness registers this for me. So when we come to miss Taraweeh in the Masjid, good, glad tidings. You're used to offering Taraweeh every year in Ramadan in the Masjid? Was yes, Shaykh, we used to do this, we used to do that, we loved it. Stay calm. Allah will grant you the reward of praying night prayer full, though you're praying at home. So to answer your question, yes, you can pray at home alone, and you can have your daughter, your son, you can have your wife pray with you in Jama'ah, and this is totally accepted and valid. But I would highly recommend that you do not pray Taraweeh after Isha, as we used to do in the Masjid, because now you control the time. The best time for you to pray Taraweeh is Tahajjud time. So from 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock a.m. onwards to just before the Adhan of Fajr, you can pray Taraweeh then. The reward is greater and much higher than praying it after Isha, whether alone or with anyone of your family with you. This is up to your convenience, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best.
Jazakallah khair. Follow-up question is, can a daughter lead Taraweeh for the family, which includes the father?
The consensus of all scholars of Islam that a woman cannot lead a man in Salat at all, whether he is her husband, her father, her son, her brother. It is totally unaccepted, and the prayer of the men praying behind her is invalid. So this is totally prohibited for a girl, a daughter, to lead prayers unless she leads other women. So a female, whether a mother, a daughter, a sister, can lead other women in prayer. The only difference is that she stands between them in the same line, not like men, not like the imam, who is a man who steps one step forward and is praying in front of the first row. No, she has to be with the first row in the middle, and Allah knows best.
This may be a very simple one to answer. Can we pray Taraweeh by following an imam on live TV?
The issue of virtual congregation or virtual jama'ah that many people ask. So let's get Taraweeh prayer tonight on Zoom. Enter this room. This is your password. So they open their screens in front of them. There's a camera behind the imam. And the imam says, say Allahu Akbar. And they all in different cities, different houses, pray together. This is an innovation. This is a bid'ah. If you ask them, what are you guys doing? They say, we're praying in congregation. So where are you congregating? You say, online. This is not congregation. Jama'ah means to be in the same vicinity, the same building, the same room, the same whatever. You have to be together. If you are, for example, in your hotel room overlooking the haram, and the imam is leading the prayer in the haram, and you follow him from your room, your prayer is invalid. Imagine if people neglected the fact that they are in congregation and each one prayed from his home. I can pray here from my room and I can hear the imam, and probably if I open the window I can see the masjid and the rows praying, and I follow him from my own home. This is not permissible at all, and this is not considered to be prayer in congregation.
Jazakallah. Next question is, can we give our zakat to organizers who are currently helping the poor, jobless laborers during lockdown, who may be a mix of Muslims and non-Muslims?
Zakat cannot be given to non-Muslims. Ayah number 60, chapter number 9, which is Tawbah. Allah says, إِنَّمَا الصَّدَقَاتُ لِلْفُقَرَاءِ وَالْمَسَاكِينَ. The recipient of the zakat must be Muslims, except in one category. So there are 8 categories mentioned in this ayah, the recipients of zakat. The 4th category is إنما الصدقات للفقراء والمساكين والعاملين عليها والمؤلفة قلوبهم. Those who their hearts are inclined to Islam. So if I have a tribe leader whose heart is inclined to Islam, and if he accepts Islam, thousands would follow, I can give him from zakat to soften his heart. So this is permissible, but to help poor and needy non-Muslims from zakat, no. You can help them by giving them charity, general charity, sadaqah, no problem. So organizations must make sure that they give the zakat only to the poor and needy Muslims. So even Muslims who are not classified as poor, you cannot give them zakat. If they're not needy, if they're well off, but they have been laid off work, they don't have a salary, yet they have savings, they're not begging, they have enough, alhamdulillah, you cannot give them from zakat. And organizations have a great responsibility in checking and looking where they are putting Muslims' money in.
A revert friend is not fasting due to fear of parents for the last 2 years. What is your advice to him regarding fasting?
Well, this revert, 2 years is a lot. And I understand when the family is non-Muslims and they're violent and they may hurt him or her. This is understood, and Islam, alhamdulillah, gives room to hide your Islam. But for 2 years, akhi, this is a little bit too long. If you are financially independent and you fear their harm, move out. If the sister is financially independent, or she can move out to a Muslim family that is willing to take her in, or she finds a real practicing Muslim man who's interested in marrying her and saving her from her environment, not someone who's just interested in a relationship where he could play with her and then throw her away like some rats do, unfortunately. No, if there is a real, true man who fears Allah and is willing to take it all the way, and he's willing to marry her, she should leave her home and get married to this person and live with a family life where she can practice her deen. The most essential and important thing in a Muslim's life is the ability to practice Islam. So 2 years is a lot, but again, I'm not going to be judgmental. And if the person is unable to truly fast or pray, he has to run for his life. Whether he applies to work outside the country or in a different state, as long as he can ensure that he's safe and can practice his religion, he should work on doing that, and Allah knows best.
Sheikh, a family has traveled away from home on a 4-day trip, and they've got stuck about 350 kilometers away from home, and now it's in a state of lockdown, so they haven't been able to return home. Since the date of return is not certain, are they allowed to pray Qasr? And should they continue the Qasr even in Ramadan since they're not at home?
I answered this question today on my email. So the brother had posted this question on my website, and I do remember the 350 kilometers, and his wife is living in Chennai. So should I repeat the answer again? I think I should, maybe. The issue of shortening prayer is an issue of dispute among scholars. Some limit the journey to being 4 days. Some make it more, up to even 19 days. And some make it indefinitely. Those who make it indefinitely, they quote a hadith where Abdullah ibn Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, kept on shortening prayer when he was in Russia on an expedition, and it was snowing, and he was held back from returning due to the snow. So every morning he checks whether they can travel back or not. They say no, 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 until it finished 6 months, then they were able to go. So he, for 6 months, kept on shortening prayers. And this is why scholars say a person who does not know when he will be back, and this is a very important condition, he is still labeled as a traveler, he should continue to shorten. So if a person went to Chennai to visit his in-laws for the weekend, and all of a sudden they did this lockdown, and he's unable to return, he doesn't know when the lockdown will be uplifted, he's exactly in the same place as Ibn Umar. So he should shorten his prayers unless he gets settled. So I personally would probably get settled after a couple of weeks or 3 weeks of staying at my in-laws' house, because now I feel more settled. Sometimes I may not. It may take me 6 weeks. It may take me a couple of months. This is something that varies from one person to the other. So in short, if you're not settled, you can continue to shorten your prayers, even if Ramadan is due, and Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best.
Jazakallah khair. Can we read directly from the Quran whilst praying Taraweeh?
Can you what?
Can we read directly from the Mus'haf whilst praying Taraweeh?
It is totally permissible to recite the Quran or read the Quran through voluntary only prayers, not fard. So Taraweeh, if the Imam holds the Quran in his hand to finish the Quran or to read long surahs, no problem. Even if you hold your mobile to read it from your mobile, yes, but put it on airplane mode. You don't want to read in Surah Al-Kahf and all of a sudden you get a WhatsApp message. Whoops, okay, 1 second, let me answer this. No, put it on airplane mode and read it without any problem.
And you can do this individually as well, even if not an imam?
Yes, you can do it individually or if you're an imam. But the follower should not do this. So if my father is leading in the prayer and I'm holding the Mus'haf behind him, this is against the Sunnah. This is not recommended.
We all read a lot of Quran during Ramadan as a month. What is your advice? Which is better, to read it with the translation or to just do tilawah?
No, you have to do a balance. You do tilawah and you do the translation because this increases your understanding to what you are reciting. But the main reward is with reading the Arabic text, even if you don't understand. This is the main source of reward. Understanding it adds a lot of value to it, but you have to balance this and that, inshallah.
So a 10-year-old son of a sister has had a liver transplant and he is going to try to fast some days in Ramadan. Will he get reward even if he only does half the fasts? Because medically it is difficult for him to fast.
Allah Azza wa Jal had given the concession for those who are medically ill to skip. So why burden yourself by fasting? Allah says, فَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ مَرِيضًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ فَعِدَّةٌ مِنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرٍ. Those who are sick or traveling, they should make up after days later on. Fasting for a person who's sick is divided into 3 categories. Category 1, fasting and not fasting are equal. So there's no hardship, there's no harm, I'm not suffering, then it's best for me to fast. Someone who travels by airplane for half an hour or an hour to reach his destination, he's not suffering at all. He says, Akhi, why would I break my fast? It's crazy. No, I'd rather fast in Ramadan with everyone else, and there's no hardship at all. I'm not even thirsty. Secondly, a person who fasts Ramadan while being sick, yet there is hardship on him. He's not going to die. He's not delaying his recovery process, but it is really hard. And he can feel tired and weary, but he's okay. He can make it. Fasting for him is makruh, and Allah does not love it. It's valid, but Allah doesn't love it. The third category is when a person fasts and he might die because of that. Or his recovery, instead of being in 1 week, it is prolonged for a month. So there is real hardship and harm on his health. This person's fasting is prohibited. It's haram. So I hope this answers your question.
Sheikh, can we do i'tikaf at home?
No. I'tikaf can only be done in full-fledged masjids. I'tikaf cannot be done in a prayer hall or a musalla or in the masjid of the company or the office. It has to be in a full-fledged masjid that cannot be sold or moved, as a masjid that is there forever.
Can zakah money be used to buy groceries for poor, needy Muslims?
The default is that when I give out my money, I do not force the poor to take my choosing for him. My zakat is $1,000, for example. So I decide to buy dresses for Eid for the children, the girls, buy a suit or two for the boys, maybe some shoes, buy groceries, maybe flour and oil and sugar and rice, and give it to the family. This is not permissible. Give it the cash to the family. If they're really poor or needy, they will pay the electricity bill or the gas bill. They will pay for their medication. They will pay off a debt that the one who had lent them is threatening to call the police and put them in jail. So you do not judge what they need and what not. You simply give them the money cash. But if you take authorization from the poor, so for example, if I ask 100 families around me who are Muslim, who are poor, and who are needy, and they don't have food, and I say to them, listen, I am giving $1,000 zakat money. If I give each family $10, they would probably buy little food. But if I buy all of them food in wholesale, they'll get more of ration and their portion would be increased, maybe by 30%. So would you authorize me to buy food for you, or would you like me to give you the $10 in cash? Those who tell you, no, Jazakallah khair, you get us the food, this is authorization from the poor, you can buy them food. Those who say, no, give us the money in cash, you have to give it to them in cash, and Allah knows best.
Many women in India perform itikaf at home. You mentioned a ruling for the men. What is the ruling for the women doing itikaf?
It's the same thing. This is not called i'tikaf. This is called sitting alone, devoting 8 hours or 10 hours to worship Allah. This is good. This is rewardable. You do not call it i'tikaf. I'tikaf has to be in the masjid without any doubt among the scholars of Islam. They disputed whether it is only permissible to be done in the 3 great main masjids in Islam, or it can be done in any masjid. But there is no dispute, to my knowledge, that it can only be performed in masjids, full-fledged masjids.
Sheikh, I only know very few surah. Can I repeat the surah every day in Taraweeh?
There is no problem at all in that. You can repeat the same surah or the same few surahs you memorize in Taraweeh over and over and over and over again. This is Quran. There's no problem with that. But if you can hold the mushaf and read from different parts, maybe that would be better for you, but it's up to you entirely.
For a new mother who is feeding her baby for the next 2 years, is fasting exempt for her in this condition? Obviously with the condition that she makes up for it at a later point of time.
There is no problem for a woman who's breastfeeding or a woman who's pregnant to skip fasting if this is difficult for her, she finds hardship, or she fears for the safety of her child. Allah has given her the concession to skip it and make it up later on, inshallah.
If a person has missed fasts and passes away without fasting it, and none of the relatives are willing to fast it on his behalf, is there anything that can be done?
This depends. If a person falls sick and does not recover until he dies, there's nothing on him or his heirs, his relatives. If a person does not fast willingly, nothing is wrong with him. Again, it's not accepted for his relatives or heirs to fast on his behalf. Only those who skipped days of Ramadan due to illness, then recovered and got the chance to make up for these missed days, but were lazy or did not think that they will pass away so quickly, and they died. Those, it is recommended for their heirs to fast on their behalf. If the heirs do not want to fast on their behalf, then there's nothing to be done. There's no feeding on behalf of this dead person, but the heirs are recommended in Islam to put an effort. So if he missed 20 days and he had 10 heirs, brothers, sons, daughters, and a wife or more, each one of them fasts 2 days, these are 20 days. It's nothing. They don't have to dedicate this to one individual. They can all share it. One says, okay, Sheikh, but what about feeding the poor people on behalf of a sick person? No, this is when the sick person is chronically sick. Someone who has dialysis. He does the dialysis for his kidneys. And the doctor said that there's no way you can fast until you die. This person feeds for every day he misses a poor person. But someone who falls sick and usually he can recover and make up for these days, no, there's no feeding for that, and Allah knows best.
Is it compulsory to compensate for the missed fasts of the previous Ramadan before this one commences?
Yes, it is mandatory for a person who's able, who has no obstacles, to make up for the missed days of the previous Ramadan before the coming Ramadan. He has 11 months to make up for these missed days. Usually it's girls, young girls, and sometimes women who proxenate, who say every day, yes, inshallah, tomorrow, after tomorrow, Sha'ban is due. You have 30 days to make up. Yeah, inshallah. Middle of Sha'ban is in. You have 15 days. Yeah, inshallah, I will do that. And boom, she has her menses. Oh, I have my menses. I can't fast. Well, you're sinful. And Allah will punish you for that. Because you had the whole year and you were neglectful, playful, and didn't pay any attention. So yes, if you, listening to me, have 3 days or 4 that are missed, you have to make them in the remaining time before Ramadan, and Allah knows best.
Sheikh, you mentioned about how we can read from the Mus'haf during Taraweeh. The question from the audience is, what is the procedure for holding the Mus'haf when we go for ruku and sujood and then want to bring it back into our hands? Is there a procedure that you would recommend?
Have a chair next to you or in front of you. Whenever you make ruku', you put it. Make your sujood. When you're standing up, pick it up. I don't think you need to be a rocket scientist to figure this out. And this is not something that is mentioned in the Quran or Sunnah. So, Sheikh, what can I do with the Quran? Should I get a rope from the ceiling? And no, it's yani, you can come up with something that is innovative, not in a bid'ah way, but in a good way, inshallah.
So can we play the audio from the Quran on the phone and follow that when we are praying Taraweeh?
Why don't you get someone from a poor village and let him pray Taraweeh, and you lay down and watch him pray and listen to him? No, Akhi, you cannot play the Quran while doing Taraweeh and listening to it, because this brings us to the virtual Taraweeh again. No, you have to read it yourself. Listening to it is not permissible, and it does not suffice.
There are people that we want to give zakat to who are spending lavishly. Can we still give it to them with this knowledge that they're not utilizing the money in the right way?
If they are poor or needy, it is debatable how they spend their money. Again, it is not our duty to monitor people and to judge them. So if it is beyond any doubt that they are spending money lavishly and over things that are worthless, no, there are more needy people who can utilize this money. But if I know that they are needy indeed, I can simply tell them, listen, I have zakat money and I'm willing to do with it whatever you tell me. So would you like me to pay off your electricity bill? Would you like me to buy you with my zakat money medication you give me a list of? Would you like me to buy groceries and staple food for you to consume throughout the year? If you are afraid that they are not worthy of controlling the money in their hand. But generally speaking, we should not judge people. What you think it's lavish, maybe it's part of the essentials in their lives, and Allah knows best.
Sheikh, can we proceed with the compulsory fast in Ramadan even if suhoor has been missed due to oversleeping?
If you intended it, it is a must. Meaning, I'll give you two scenarios. Tomorrow, I think you're asking about making up days of Ramadan, not the actual Ramadan, correct?
No, Sheikh, this is the actual Ramadan when we
the actual Ramadan, you have no legitimate reason to skip it. It is a must for you. Whether you skip suhoor or not, whether you forgot to drink water before adhan or not, once the adhan is done, once you wake up, you are compelled to continue fasting.
Sheikh, you mentioned about the intention part. Another question is, can we make intention before Ramadan commences for all the 30 fasts or 29 fasts that we are meant to do? Or should it be done individually for each?
No. One intention is sufficient in the beginning of the month, unless the fasting is interrupted. So for example, I know tomorrow is Ramadan, 1st of Ramadan, so I have my suhoor. My intention is to fast. And I begin to fast. By default, the following day till the 30th day, I don't have to make an intention. I know that this is a package deal. But if I interrupt the fasting due to sickness or to traveling, once I resume fasting, I have to have a new intention for that beginning of the second phase. And Allah knows best.
Sheikh, another question is, I think we've already addressed this. My mother is 80 years old. She is diabetic, unable to fast. How must she compensate?
She has to feed one poor person for every day missed. And the scholars say that if you prepare a normal meal, that would be sufficient. So normal chicken biryani would do. That is sufficient for a poor person. That would do. If you want to give raw food, it should be 1 kilogram plus 1.125 grams. So it's 1.125 grams of rice you give for every day that is missed. Bearing in mind that it is not permissible to give such a expiation or fidyah except after the end of the day. A common mistake people do is they come the first day of Ramadan and they feed 30 persons for the whole month. This is not valid. This is considered to be charity. The expiation is not due until the ibadah is over. So the first day of Ramadan, you skipped. You cannot give expiation until the sun sets. Now the day is over. This is a day you can feed for, not for the following day. Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, used to wait until the end of the whole month of Ramadan. So 29 or 30 days are over, khalas is finished, then he feeds 29 or 30 poor people.
Sheikh, when we are doing Shawwal fasts after Ramadan, can we have 2 intentions for the same fast? That is,
no.
I want to make...
Okay, I'll make it easy for you. The Prophet said, alayhi sallam, he who fasts Ramadan, full package, then follows it with 6 days of Shawwal, Allah would grant him as if he fasted the whole year. So if you missed 6 days due to your monthly cycle, not you, Fahad, sisters, and you want to make up for these missed days during Shawwal, you cannot combine the intentions. You have to make 6 independent days on behalf of Ramadan so that you would be fulfilling fasting the whole month as a package. Then you follow that with 6 separate days for the month of Shawwal, and Allah knows best. I hope this was your question.
Jazakallah for the clarification as well, very helpful. Sheikh, you mentioned in the speech about 40 acts and deeds, and the first one at the top was the goat, lending the goat for milking. Is there any place that we can go on to refer to these 40 deeds?
Wallahi, I think, as I said in the lecture, it was mentioned by Ibn Hajar in Fath al-Bari, but you have to go back to it. I have to research it. Maybe post me a question in my website, inshallah. And if it comes to me and I'm not lazy, I'll try to find the location and send it to the questioner, inshallah.
And this applies to everyone else as well. I know you've got a lot of questions that I may not have presented to the Sheikh, but we are just up on time, so I don't want to take more of his time. He does have a website where you can post the questions, and if he's not lazy, he will get back to you, inshallah, as soon as possible. So please post your questions on the website.
No. It's not like that, Fahad. Laziness is not in answering. It's in researching. I, with the grace of Allah Azza wa Jal, I'm blessed by Him Subhanahu wa Ta'ala to have this opportunity to serve the Muslims through my website. But due to the huge amount of questions that we receive, unfortunately, we limited the number to 250 questions a day. This is our quota. So my website opens from 9 o'clock a.m. Mecca time until 5 o'clock p.m. Mecca time, on the basis of first come, first served. So if people are just waiting to post their question at 9 o'clock and there are 250 questions, the website would close and not take any more questions. So don't think that when you, what is this? It's 10 o'clock and the website is closed. So the Sheikh must be lazy today. No, it's not lazy. I'm lazy by nature. It's true. But when it comes to questions, I can only answer 250 questions, which takes about 4 to 5 good hours of my day, alhamdulillah. And all thanks be to Allah. And after that, to the team I have who helped me in filtering the questions and preparing the answers that I have answered throughout the 10 years, previous years, yani. The same question. What's the ruling on listening to music? Do I have to type it all over again? No, there's a link of video that answers this question. So they post it, they send it to me, I okay it after I'm sure that it is, they understood the question right and the answer or the link was correct, and they give it back. New questions I have to write myself and put the effort to that. So the laziness, when I get a new question like borrowing the goat for milking and coming back and the 40 issues listed by the Prophet ﷺ, where to find it? Oh, I have to open the books and research it and look for it. Here I might be lazy. And I said, well, I'd rather answer 10 questions in the time of my research for this particular question, which does not have a great value. So I apologize for correcting you, but I just don't want people to think of me of being that lazy.
Apologies, Sheikh. That was not what I was intending to say. And we are aware of the fact that you've got yourself and a massive team who are working on this every day. I've used it myself, and a lot of the people I know have used it, and we've found it very, very beneficial. May Allah keep you and your team in good health, and continue the service to the Ummah, inshallah. Sheikh, with that, I think we will have to conclude the session because we are up on time. I will encourage everyone to post their sessions, the questions on the website. Sheikh, just a couple of last two questions, if you've got 2 minutes for us, I just want to present to you. Yes. One is a question that I endorse myself as well. The question is, Sheikh, and this is a question from the audience, Sheikh, do you have time to commit to us, as in this crowd, during the month of Ramadan to give us some sort of a dars in any way? Is that possible at all?
First of all, committing is a serious thing. And usually in Ramadan, I don't commit at all because of the many tasks that I have, which unfortunately with the lockdown have been drastically reduced. So my lectures and classes on daily basis in different masjids on different salats is not possible anymore. I have only the chance to go live on Zad TV for an hour, but the permissions to commute to the studios are still pending. So until that time comes, I find it difficult to be able to commit. I have many requests from Dubai, from Nigeria, from the UK, among other places, to have such a commitment. My schedule is as follows. I don't have anything. So you guys ask me to come, I will be more than happy to come. To commit now, I don't know my timings. So let us keep it open. Whenever you invite me, I would be honored to come and to meet you guys and sit with you, providing it does not clash with my sacred sleeping hours, which is very awkward and weird. So this can be discussed with Umar Sharif Bhai, and inshallah, I would be more than willing to attend, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair. And one final question before you go, Sheikh. So given that the current lockdown situation at the moment, if it does continue, when we pray Eid Salah at home, should we follow the procedure of praying 2 Nafil Salah with 7 takbir like in the Masjid, or should we pray at home as 2 Nafil Rakah? And your advice for us in general during the lockdown to adhere to the government regulations if they say not to go out for Eid Salah?
Yes, of course, you have to adhere to the regulations of the authorities. We don't want them to take this as an scapegoat to condemn Muslims of trying to harm the community and the society. Alhamdulillah, Allah Azza wa Jal has given us the concession to pray home. In regards of praying Eid prayer home, we discussed this issue, if I recall correctly, on our weekly lesson. And as you know, every Monday and Thursday, we have a live broadcast on Islamic Fiqh Facebook, my Facebook as well, and also on YouTube, my YouTube, where I teach an hour every Monday and every Thursday from a textbook on fiqh. So we came to discuss, and the timing is same as today. We began at 4:30 Mecca time, so every Monday and Thursday 4:30 Mecca time until 5:30. And we discussed this issue, and we said that the vast majority of schools of thought, the school of Malik and the school of Shafi'i and the school of Ahmad bin Hanbal, they say that it is permissible for those who miss praying Jumu'ah in congregation to pray at home. However, Imam Abu Hanifa says that this is not permissible because this is a prayer that was made to be prayed in congregation. And this opinion is also the opinion of Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah and our Shaykh Muhammad ibn Salih al-Uthaymeen. May Allah have mercy on them all. And I personally believe that this is the correct opinion, that it is not permissible to pray Eid prayer home because it was made to be prayed in congregation and in an open plaza, not in masjids like many people do, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best.
Yes, Jazakallah khairan for everything today. The session has been most beneficial. The feedback on the chat as well has been, alhamdulillah, overwhelming in terms of their appreciation for the effort and the session today. Jazakallah khair from all of us. Inshallah, we connect again soon based on available times. We already have a couple of requests from the audience saying the Sheikh just said that he may be free, so please book his calendar. So inshallah, we will be in touch. Jazakallah khair for everything today.